This is The Courtship of Mr. Lyon from Angela Carter's The Bloody Chamber. Let's begin. The Courtship of Mr. Lyon. Outside her kitchen window the hedgerow glistened, as if the snow possessed a light of its own. When the sky darkened towards the evening, an unearthly reflected pallor remained behind upon the winter's landscape, while still the soft flakes floated down. This lovely girl, whose skin possesses that same inner light, so you would have thought she, too, was made all of snow, pauses in her chores in the mean kitchen to look out at the country road. Nothing has passed that way all day. The road is white and unmarked as a spoilt bolt of bridal satin. Father said he would be home before nightfall. The snow brought down all the telephone wires. He couldn't have called, even with the best of news. The roads are bad. I hope he'll be safe. But the old car stuck fast in a rut, wouldn't budge an inch. The engine whirred, coughed and died, and he was far from home. Ruined once, then ruined again, as he had learned from his lawyers that very morning, at the conclusion of the lengthy, slow attempt to restore his fortunes. He had turned out his pockets to find the cash for petrol to take him home, and not even enough money left over to buy his beauty, his girl child, his pet, the one white rose she said she wanted, the only gift she wanted, no matter how the case went. How rich might once again be. She had asked for so little, and he had not been able to give it to her. He cursed the useless car, the last straw that broke his spirit, then, nothing for it but to fasten his old sheepskin coat around him, abandon the heap of metal and set off down the snow-filled lane to look for help. Behind wrought iron gates, a short, snowy drive performed a reticent flourish before a miniature, perfect, Palladian house that seemed to hide itself shyly behind snow-laden skirts of antique cypress. It was almost night, that house, with its sweet, retiring, melancholy grace, would have seemed deserted but for a light that flickered in an upstairs window, so vague it might have been the reflection of a star, if any stars could have penetrated the snow that whirled yet more thickly. Chilled through, he pressed the latch of the gate and saw with a pang how, on the withered ghost of a tangle of thorns, there clung still the faded rag of a white rose. The gate clanged loudly shut behind him, too loudly. For an instant that reverberating clang seemed final, emphatic, ominous, as if the gate, now closed, barred all within it from the world outside the walled wintry garden. And from a distance, though from what distance he could not tell, he heard the most singular sound in the world, a great roaring, as of a beast of prey. In too much need to allow himself to be intimidated, he squared up to the mahogany door. This door was equipped with a knocker in the shape of a lion's head, with a ring through the nose. As he raised his hand towards it, it came to him this lion's head was not, as he had thought at first, made of brass, but instead of solid gold. Before, however, he could announce his presence, the door swung silently inward on well-oiled hinges, and he saw a white hall where the candles of a great chandelier cast their benign light upon so many, many flowers in great free-standing jars of crystal that it seemed the whole of spring drew him into its warmth with a profound intake of perfumed breath. Yet there was no living person in the hall. The door behind him closed as silently as it had opened, yet this time he felt no fear, although he knew by the pervasive atmosphere of a suspension of reality that he had entered a place of privilege where all the laws of the world he knew need not necessarily apply, for the very rich are often very eccentric, and the house was plainly that of an exceedingly wealthy man. As it was, when nobody came to help him with his coat, he took it off himself. At that, the crystals of the chandelier tinkled a little, as if emitting a pleased chuckle, and the door of a cloakroom opened of its own accord. There were, however, no clothes at all in this cloakroom, not even the statutory country house garden mackintosh to greet his own squirearchal sheepskin. But when he emerged again into the hall, he found a greeting waiting for him at last. There was, of all things, a liver and white King Charles spaniel crouched, with head intelligently cocked, on the kellum runner. It gave him further comforting proof of his unseen host's wealth and eccentricity to see the dog wore, in place of a collar, a diamond necklace. The dog sprang to its feet in welcome and busily shepherded him, how amusing, to a snug little leather-panelled study on the first floor, where a low table was drawn up to a roaring log fire. On the table a silver tray, round the neck of the whisky decanter a silver tag with the legend, "Drink me," while the cover of his silver dish was engraved with the exhortation, "Eat me," in a flowing hand. This dish contained sandwiches of thick-cut roast beef, still bloody. He drank the one with soda, and ate the other with some excellent mustard thoughtfully provided in a stoneware pot, and, when the spaniel saw to it he had served himself, she trotted off about her own business. All that remained to make Beauty's father entirely comfortable was to find in a curtained recess not only a telephone but the card of a garage that advertised a 24-hour rescue service. A couple of calls later, and he had confirmed, thank God, that there was no serious trouble, only the car's age and the cold weather. Could he pick it up from the village in an hour? And directions to the village, but half a mile away, were supplied, in a new tone of deference, as soon as he described the house from where he was calling. And he was disconcerted, but, in his impecunious circumstances, relieved to hear the bill would go on his hospitable, if absent, host's account. No question, assured the mechanic. It was the master's custom. Time for another whisky, as he tried, unsuccessfully, to call Beauty and tell her he would be late, but the lines were still down, although, miraculously, the storm had cleared as the moon rose, and now a glance between the velvet curtains revealed a landscape as of ivory, with an inlay of silver. Then the spaniel appeared again, with his hat in her careful mouth, prettily wagging her tail as if to tell him it was time to be gone, and this magical hospitality was over. As the door swung to behind him, he saw the lion's eyes were made of agate. Great wreaths of snow, now precariously curded with rose trees, and when he brushed against a stem on his way to the gate, a chill armful softly thudded to the ground, to reveal, as if miraculously preserved beneath it, one last, single, perfect rose, that might have been the last rose left living in all the white winter, and of so intense and yet delicate a fragrance it seemed to ring like a dulcimer on the frozen air. How could his host, so mysterious, so kind, deny Beauty her presence? Not now distant, but close at hand, close as that mahogany front door, rose a mighty, furious roaring. The garden seemed to hold its breath in apprehension. But still, because he loved his daughter, Beauty's father stole the rose. At that, every window of the house blazed with furious light, and a fugle baying, as of a pride of lions, introduced his host.